Over in Washington, D.C., where Ainsley Earhardt is live with the Vice President of the United States. Hey, Ainsley.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much. We have the distinct honor this morning to stand here with the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Mike Pence. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for choosing Fox and Friends.
You bet,
we'll start with some breaking news. We just learned that they have found some remains from the USS McCain. Just wanted to get your thoughts to those families.
Well, our hearts go out to the families of the sailors that were lost in this incident, and I can assure you that at the President's direction, our Navy is going to take the opportunity of this pause in operations to fully evaluate our training processes, to have this happen several times since the first of this year, collisions in 2 instances which have cost the lives of our sailors. It's just unacceptable, and we'll get to the bottom of it. But right now, our hearts are with the families of those that are lost. We honor them, and we'll have them in our hearts and prayers.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about the speech last night. There were some very powerful statements made, some such as, not nation building, we are killing terrorists.
Right.
He had a message for Pakistan and for India. He said his instincts were not to pull out, but he's listening to the generals, and they're saying that we should stay there and possibly send more troops in. We've heard 4,000. He says no longer will troops be micromanaged by D.C., and we won't disclose our strategy to the enemy. What, in your opinion, were your favorite moments last night?
What the American people saw last night was a commander-in-chief addressing the nation, addressing our troops, and really addressing the world with American resolve. Literally, for now nearly 16 years, we've been at war in Afghanistan, and the strategy has continuously changed. In many ways, we haven't had one strategy for all those years. We've had 16 different years, 16 different strategies. And what President Trump announced yesterday was a whole new strategy for South Asia that said, look, we're going to provide the resources and the military personnel and the air assets necessary to support the Afghan army's efforts to defeat the Taliban. We're going to be there to destroy terrorist networks that use Afghanistan and portions of Pakistan as safe havens. We're going to call on Pakistan to step up and be a more effective partner in confronting the terrorist organizations, some 20 of which harbor in Afghanistan and regions in Pakistan. And we're going to engage India more effectively in Afghanistan. But not nation building. We'll let the Afghan people build their own nation. Our objective there is to advance the security of the United States of America and to support the Afghan National Army as they stay in the lead in the fight. And let me say, the confidence that the American people and the world heard last night from our commander-in-chief derives from the fact that this is exactly the approach that President Trump directed in Iraq and in Syria. We have personnel at the brigade level that are working with Iraqi forces, and they've been driving ISIS out of Iraq, and soon will go all the way to drive them out of existence. We're going to take all those lessons and the leadership President Trump has provided in Iraq and Syria, put that into practice in Afghanistan with the same result.
Well, I know, being a father of a Marine, we looked at the faces of those folks that were in the crowd that are fighting for our great country. The President didn't specifically say 4,000, but U.S. officials yesterday released some reports saying that he was going to send 4,000 additional troops. He didn't mention that last night. I wanted to know why, and is that the exact number? Well,
the Pentagon in June made a recommendation for an additional 3,900 troops to support exactly the kind of tactical deployment that I just described. Deploying personnel at the brigade level to be able to coordinate Afghan National Army efforts and to be able to more effectively deploy American assets. We also, the President made clear last night that we're in a very real sense changing the rules of engagement so that American commanders on the ground can make real-time decisions. I mean, for too long in the last administration, we had artificial timelines that only emboldened the Taliban and terrorist enemies in the country. And we also put great restraints on American military personnel in their battle against terrorist organizations and the Taliban. Now, the President has taken off those limitations, going to let our commanders make real-time decisions on the ground. We believe that it's going to be effective. But I can tell you, Ainsley, you know, as the father of a United States Marine, I couldn't be more proud to have seen the way this President went about this decision. He asked all the hard questions. He demanded answers. not just from our military personnel, but our diplomatic team and everyone who could bring expertise to this decision. And the way he went about this decision and the way he squared his shoulders and said to the American people and said to the world, here is what we need to do for our safety and our security, couldn't make me more proud.
You mentioned your son. Do you feel better now about your son wearing this uniform under the administration currently versus past administrations?
I'm just very proud of the leadership of President Donald Trump as Commander-in-Chief. Look, we've already passed out of this Congress the largest increase in military spending in more than 10 years. The President last night made it clear to our troops that they're going to have the support and they're going to have the freedom in the field, whether it be in Iraq and Syria or in Afghanistan, to be able to accomplish their mission. And having that kind of leadership in the Oval Office gives me great confidence as the father of a Marine, and I know it gives great confidence to all of our troops that, as the President has said so many times, he believes that given the ability, given the resources, and given the training, our military can accomplish any mission that they're given. And as he said last night, with that support, with this new strategy, we're in Afghanistan to win, and we know that American troops can accomplish that. We
have so many troops that are watching Fox and Friends this morning. What is your message to them, to those folks that are enlisted, that are hearing this about the surge? What is your message to them, and why should they want to serve our great country? Because they're sacrificing so much. Is it worth their lives?
I was here in Washington, D.C. on September the 11th. I saw the smoke rise from the Pentagon. I watched on television as the rest of the nation did as the towers fell in New York City. As the President said last night, many of those who have fallen in Afghanistan over the last 17 years enlisted after 9/11. They stepped forward because they knew that taking the fight to the enemy there would prevent the enemy from bringing another attack of that magnitude to our country, and they've succeeded in that. The fight that our soldiers have brought to Afghanistan has succeeded in preventing another major terrorist attack on our country. And so to all of those who step forward in this time of war in the life of our nation, they have our thanks. They are the best of us. And what they heard last night was a Commander-in-Chief who is committed to see this mission through, to see it through not for nation building, but to see it through to a stable and peaceful Afghanistan. And that all begins with giving our soldiers the resources and the freedom they need to win, and also sending a deafening message to our enemies in that region of the world that we're here to stay, we're here to fight, and we're here to see the people of Afghanistan through to a stable country that can be a durable ally of the United States instead of a safe haven for terrorists.
It definitely was a strong message to our enemies, and it was a strong message to our country about patriotism and how that trumps the bigotry and the racism. How does it make you feel when you know the mainstream media, other networks? I know you've had another interview this morning. I listened to Nikki Haley interviewed on some other networks this morning. How does it make you feel after the President had such a strong message last night about unifying our country, and to know that they're asking one or two questions about that speech, but they want to focus so much about a tweet that he put out a week and a half ago?
You know, criticism comes with the job. We recognize that. But the President couldn't have been more clear since that terrible day in Charlottesville, that tragic day, that we condemn bigotry and hate and violence in all its forms. We denounce white supremacists, the KKK, and neo-Nazi organizations. But last night, what the American people heard the President say, as he said before so many times, is that we're stronger as a nation when we're united. And to refer to the fact that in the patriot's heart there is no room for bigotry. It was words he first spoke before the Congress in his joint address to the Congress earlier this year. They're words that I hear him speak all the time. And I truly do believe as we continue to drive forward on policies that will make America safe again, that will make America prosperous again, we're going to continue to achieve the President's heartfelt goal of bringing this country together and uniting this country once again.
I do have to ask you about the surge. We've tried it twice before and it hasn't worked. What makes you think this time it's going to?
Well, the last administration engaged in a surge and took forces up to some 100,000 troops in the region, and then announced an artificial timeline for pulling out, only emboldening the enemies. What President Trump has made clear is two things. Number one, no more artificial timelines. That we're committed. We're committed to standing with the Afghan forces in the battle against the Taliban, in the battle against Al-Qaeda and ISIS-Khorasan and all the terrorist organizations that are trying to take advantage of that safe haven to project violence against us and against our allies. The second piece, though, is the tactical strategy. I mean, the progress under President Trump's leadership in Iraq and in Syria has truly been remarkable. It's all owing to the President's vision and to the courage and determination of American forces in the field. The Iraqi military is in the fight, but we've essentially provided brigade-level personnel that are directing those Iraqi forces and provided the kind of air support that's allowed Iraq to reclaim a third of its country that was lost to ISIS after the precipitous withdrawal during the last administration. President Trump's leadership made that possible. In Iraq and in Syria, we've got ISIS on the run. He's taking that same vision, the same strategy to Afghanistan now. And in the troop levels are significant, and we'll listen to our military commanders about that. And the President will make that decision in the days ahead. But I think what's significant here is the President has decided to take the tactics that are working in defeating ISIS in Afghanistan and Syria, put them into practice in Afghanistan, and given the freedom and the resources, we know that our soldiers are going to be able to win just as much in Afghanistan as they've been winning in Iraq.
What was your message to the President of Afghanistan when you talked to him?
I called him and I told him the President had a very simple message, and that was, we're with you. The United States is here to stay. We're going to be in this fight to see Afghanistan through to a stable and peaceful future. But my message also was that Afghanistan needs to continue to step up, needs to continue to build a partnership militarily, diplomatically, and economically with the United States of America. We want to strengthen the partnership between Afghanistan and India. We want to hold Pakistan more accountable for their actions in the region. But at the end of the day, it was a very straightforward message that after years of an uncertain message of commitment, last night the President announced his decision that the United States of America stands with the people of Afghanistan for a stable and peaceful future, and the American soldier will be there to win the fight with them against terrorist organizations and the Taliban.
Some are calling for the Confederate monuments at the Capitol to be taken down. Do you agree?
Well, first off, I agree with the President that seeing people destroy public property in the name of any cause is just simply unacceptable. Communities can have conversations about what displays happen. But I hold the view that it's important that we remember our past and build on the progress that we've made. The United States Capitol, every state is able to donate 2 statues to commemorate citizens that they want remembered in the heart of our government. And states can make those decisions. What we have to walk away from is a desire by some to erase parts of our history just in the name of some contemporary political cause.
You're in favor of keeping those monuments?
I think that, obviously, I think that should always be a local decision, and with regard to the U.S. Capitol, should be state decisions. But I'm someone who believes in more monuments, not less monuments. What we ought to do is we ought to remember our history, but we also ought to celebrate the progress that we've made since that history. You know, when I walked back in 2010 across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with John Lewis, arm in arm, and we remembered Bloody Sunday and the extraordinary progress of the civil rights movement, I can't help but think that rather than pulling down monuments, as some are wont to do, rather than tearing down monuments that have graced our cities all across this country for years, we ought to have been building more monuments. We ought to be celebrating the men and women who've helped our nation move toward a more perfect union and tell the whole story of America.
Tonight, the President will have another rally. What can we expect tonight, and what's your message to the protesters?
The message I think the President will deliver tonight is that we need to get on with the business of the American people. I mean, this President was elected to rebuild our military, to restore our economy, to make America safe again. The President today will be talking about border security and visiting those that protect our borders in Arizona. And I think tonight you'll hear the President say that as the Congress prepares to come back, here's the agenda. We want to support our troops. We want to provide the resources they need to accomplish the mission that the President has now tasked them to accomplish. We want to support law enforcement. We want to build a wall and have internal enforcement and border security. Illegal immigration at our southern border is down now more than 60%. And that's a result of the leadership that President Trump has been providing. But we need Congress to continue to support those efforts. Repealing and replacing Obamacare, bringing about the kind of tax cuts that will get this economy moving even farther, even though we've seen 1 million jobs created. And companies around the country are investing in America again instead of investing around the world. The President tonight is going to call on the Congress to step up and move an agenda forward that's going to make America great again.
Will it be strictly positive? Can we expect him to say something against Senator McCain or Senator Flake or talk about Sheriff Arpaio?
Well, I think what the American people are going to hear tonight is a president who's completely focused on an agenda to move this country forward. I mean, literally after 8 years of a moribund economy, 8 years of America literally walking away from commitments around the wider world, putting enormous burdens on American businesses. I think you're going to see the President tonight talk about the progress that we've made, but he's also going to call on the Congress to get ready to come back when they arrive on September the 5th and go straight to work to make America safe again, make America prosperous again, and in his words, to make America great again.
Paul Ryan talked about his tweets last night in an interview, and he said he wished the President would tweet less and said that he messed up last week. What is your response?
The President was clear in the aftermath of the tragedy in Charlottesville that we denounce bigotry and hate and violence in all of its forms. The President and I were both very specific about denouncing hate groups like white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and the KKK. And he was again on Tuesday. I think the American people heard him. They heard his heart. But I think at the end of the day, now that that's been said, and people know where the President and I and all of us stand in this administration, and now the American people want us all to move forward in ways that will bring this country back together. You know, I can't help but believe, as the President himself has said, that as the country becomes more prosperous, as our streets become safer, we're going to enjoy greater unity in this country. I know it's the President's heart desire to see the American people come together, to be unified. And I think as we see the progress that we're making in restoring law and order to our streets, and we're seeing the progress we're making in more than 1 million jobs created, I think we're going to continue to see that unity and that strength across this nation.
They love to hear that message. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We wish you, your family, and your son all the best. He's a hero.
Thanks, Ainsley.
Thank you.